Hello, how's everyone doing? Okay, we're live. So wait a minute, see. Anyone comes on board? See who's here with us. Who's with us today? How's everyone doing? Let me know. Send me a message. Great. People are good. Okay. That's good. That's important. Okay, we're just going to give it another minute, and then we'll start. So if you have a Haggadah, grab a Haggadah. Look at the next part.
Yeah. Oh, I got two.
Okay, let's start. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you're keeping busy, staying out of trouble, trying to do your best at school or whatever else that you're doing now. And one second. So yesterday we talked about how the different types of galus, the different types of situations in exile, help to shape and grow and develop the Jewish people, and that the two different ways that Hashem told Abraham, what Hashem told Abraham, that outside forces are going to put pressure on his children and it's going to make them get closer together and grow as a people. Those ways as well, in those situations, are going to help us grow and develop. And we talked about how the Jewish people we spent most of our time in history, not in the place we would like to be. The perfect scenario for any Jewish person is to be living in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel, with a Beis Hamikdash and a king and a Sanhedrin, living under Torah. And we only lived in our history, we've only lived a very brief time like that, maybe about 1,300 years, as opposed to the 3,500 years of our history. So there's been a lot of time not how we think we're supposed to be, how we think we're supposed to be living. So we said, how do we understand that? Why is that? And so we gave the story of the guy going to the party. He's the life of the party. He's the main guy, but he has to do all these preparations, and he has to prepare, and he has to practice, and he has to get ready to be the best party guy he can be. And so the same thing is with the Jewish people, that while we started at Har Sinai, we need to develop, and we need to grow and become the people that we're ultimately going to be when Mashiach does come. And that growth is going to happen in Israel, in Gullus, outside of how we're supposed to live. And it's going to be that pressure and those circumstances that's going to develop us and grow us. And so then we said, well, how does that work? What are the things that occur when we're in Gullus that make that development, make that growth, make us become a nation? How does that happen? If we were to look under a microscope, what are the things that are going on that makes us come together and become a Jewish people? So we read from the Haggadah. And we talked about this the verse, the pasuk of Arami Ovid Avi, and how it describes all the different things that go on. Firstly, when we do go into Galus, we don't go willingly. We always fight against. We always fight against those things. We fight against the change, and that's important because you need to fight it. You fight against change. You don't just accept change entirely right away, so that you don't change for the bad. You got to challenge the change to see if it's good, or maybe certain parts of it are good, certain parts of it aren't good. And so we always kind of do it fighting wise. And the second point was that wherever we do go, we realize that it's not the final place. It's not the final goal. The end goal is to be in Eretz Yisrael, is to be in Israel with a Beis HaMikdash, and that we're only visiting. Then we said that we always come down in few numbers, but we grow. And it's that growth that takes place that's going to trigger us to kind of be spreading out, and that's going to trigger that mechanism Hashem has to push us back together. But we always come down small. We always go to a place small, and we start off very close, and then eventually we start to spread out. And then we said, but wherever we go, we're very people. We stand out. We're outstanding. We're outstanding in who we are as people, and people take notice of that. And as well, because of who we are and that we're outstanding, we have a lot of influence on people. People look to us, and people look to what we're doing to see what they should be doing. And eventually we develop. V'rav, we develop. It helps us grow and become the people that we're heading towards being. So now in the next part of the Haggadah, we start to get into all the things that happened in Mitzrayim. So we're gonna shift. Oh, 1 second. 1 second. You want this one? Okay. So we're gonna shift, and we're gonna start talking about all the really hard work and the terrible things that happened in Mitzrayim, and it's important that we talk about that so we can feel it. Remember that if you want to feel it, if you want to realize how important we are, because we're going. Remember we said in the first couple videos that we did, we talked about how we want to go from from a feeling of not being important to a feeling of being to a feeling of real importance, and to really know that you're important. You have to feel it, and you have to experience it, and you have to go through it. So we're going to go through, and we're going to talk about what the slavery and what things were like in Mitzrayim, so that we can, and we're going to talk about as much as we can, so that we can really feel like we are there. So let's get into what happened in Mitzrayim. I think maybe sometimes we have one idea of what it was like, but maybe it was a little bit different than what we think it was. So let's put this question out there. What would you say things were like for the Jewish people when they were in Mitzrayim? How was it? What was it like? What was the day-to-day? Was it just everybody was in big mud pits and kind of like, the pictures of the slaves and getting whipped 24/7, like all the time from the second they came to Mitzrayim? Or what happened, because there's a story, and the Medrash tells us what happened and how it happened, and it paints a bit of a different picture for us as well. And when the Jewish people were in full slavery, they lived in huts, or they had no money, or were they totally poor? How was it? Wait a second. Okay. How about this one? Just trying to find a good video for her. Okay. So, anybody got any suggestions out there? Any comments? What were things like? Were we super poor? Had no money? Here's a question. Why didn't we just leave Mitzrayim? If it was so bad there, why didn't we just pick up and just leave? Pack our stuff, and just walk out. Why not? We're really like slaves, like in jail, like we were prisoners. Any comments? Okay, so I'll point out something. If you look at the Torah and you look at Parshas Shmos, there's a story there by Moshe Rabbeinu. The first time we see Moshe, it says that he goes out from having grown up in the palace of Paro, and he goes out to see the pain that his brothers are in, all the Jewish people are in. And he sees an Egyptian hitting a Jewish person. He's like, no way. Not going to stand for this. So he goes and he stops them. He stops the Egyptian by hitting him and by killing the Egyptian and saving the Jewish person. And it says the next day he went out and he saw two Jewish people fighting this time. He says, Russia, you wicked person. One Jewish person going to strike and hit the other Jewish person. And they say, who made you a ruler over us? Who made you a ruler over us? Are you going to hurt us like you did that Egyptian yesterday? So it says that Moshe now realized that what he did to the Egyptian was known, and so he had to run for his life because it was against the law what he did. He killed somebody, and Paro was looking for him, and now he had to run away. So later on, Hashem tells him he's got to go back to, he's going to save the Jewish people. He's going to take them out of Mitzrayim. Hashem says to Moshe, all the people who sought to hurt you, they're all dead. They're all gone. So Rashi asks this question. Rashi, you know what Rashi is? Rashi's the man. And Rashi, he asks this question. He says, well, the Medrash tells us, and it's based on the words that are used in the Pasuk by the story of the two Jewish people fighting. We know that these two people who were fighting were Dasan and Aviram. Well, Dasan and Aviram were still alive. Like they left Mitzrayim with Moshe, and the whole story with the man and leaving out the man and causing problems and going with Korach to complain and argue with Moshe. So how could it be that the Pasuk, the Torah, is telling us that they're gone, that they died, if we know that they come around later? Second. So Rashi says, oh, they didn't actually die. They didn't actually die. They just became poor. They lost all their money. And because they're poor, a poor person is like a dead person in that they can't really do anything. They can't participate. They can't interact with the world. It's like they can't contribute to the world. It's like they're not even there anymore. So, one second. So, okay, that's fine. So that explains that. That explains why we're saying that they died, because they're like poor, and so therefore they're like, it's not like they're not even living. But that would mean that by the story of Moshe, where they were fighting and he complained against them, they weren't poor. They were actually pretty well off. They had money and they weren't poor. Because if now they're poor, great. That's why it's like they're not even there anymore. But but that would mean that before they weren't poor and that they had money. So I don't think that doesn't really fit with how we think about it. We think about them as being poor, no money at all. They're total slaves. Maybe they only have like they're working in their underwear or something. They don't have any other clothes because all their clothes are ripped. You have that like you when you picture in your head, it's just like ripped clothes and they're all dirty and they don't have any hats, long hair and chains and shackles around them, and it's like really bad. But this says that even during the slavery, when Moshe was there, these guys who were enslaved, they were avadim. They were not poor. So, what was it? What was the slavery in Mitzrayim like? What was it like? So if we look at the next part of the Haggadah, look at the next part of the Haggadah. It says like this. It says, "Vayareu osanu ha-Mitzrim." The Egyptians did evil to us. Vaya'anunu, they afflicted us. Vayitnu alinu avoda kasha, and they put upon us hard labor. So, what does that mean? And these are now the Haggadah goes through that pasuk and it breaks it up into three different parts. First, it says, "Vayareu osanu ha-Mitzrim." The Mitzrim did evil to us. Okay, what does that mean? Kama shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Hava nischach malo." Let us go and outsmart them. Pen yirbe, lest they grow. V'haya sikrena milchama. It's going to be that if a war will happen, the nosef gamhu also neinu. They're going to gang up against with our enemies. V'nilcham banu. They'll fight us. V'ala min haaretz, and leave the land. So this is a little bit strange. If you see somebody is like growing, let's say you're a leader of a whole country like Paro, and you see some people that pretty big people and they're growing, right? Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to do what Paro did? Are you going to say, let's just make their lives miserable? Let's really hurt them because they might become even more and join our enemies? Or would you say, well, I don't want them to leave. Let's become really good friends with them. And that way we'll try to, if we make them really good friends, they'll want to join us if a war ever happens, right? Wouldn't you just want to try to show them that we're best friends and that we stand up for each other, and that way you don't have to worry about that? What kind of a plan is this? Is if you're worried about them ganging up against you, you're going to go and hurt them. Well, that's only going to make them want to maybe gang up against you anyway if a war happens. So what kind of plan is this? So what happens is the Torah tells us that that they do this. They tax them, they burden them, and they end up growing and multiplying anyways. And then it says that the Mitzrayim were disgusted with them. They became disgusted. Well, what changed that made the Mitzrayim disgusted now as opposed to before? So here's what's going on. Paro sees this people, the Jewish people, and he wants to get rid of them. He wants to destroy them for whatever reason right now. Won't get into it right now, but he wants to destroy them.
Want me to sit with you?
But Paro can't do it alone. He needs the help of all the people to really get what he wants.
Are you okay?
So how is he going to do that? How is he going to get what he wants?
Uh-oh.
Well, the first thing he's going to do is he's going to spread lies about the Jewish people to make the people hate them. But people aren't going to just buy into that right away because the Jewish people are their neighbors. So what he's going to do is he is going to tell a lie that there's a lot of them. They're spreading out, right? He says Hava nischak malo, let's outsmart, let's plan against them. Pen yirba, in case that they should get bigger, because they're getting bigger. Let's plan against them. So what happens is he enslaves them, he starts to burden them, and because of the conditions that he puts them under, they do start to grow, and over time they start to grow even more. And now that they're growing even more, and the Egyptians see that, they say, hey, this Paro guy was right. They are becoming greater, right? All he said was, hey, they're getting to be a lot of people. Now, I don't know what's bad about that. What's so bad if they're a lot of people? If they're your friends, then great. He says, no, they're getting to be a lot of people. And then people start thinking, oh yeah, there are a lot of those people. The next thing they know, when the Egyptians walking down the street and they see 1, 2, 3 Jewish people, they're going, hey, wait a second, this Paro guy is right. So after a while of spreading this lie, and the Egyptian people see that over time they do grow, because that's what happens with people. They grow and they become more. Then they become disgusted. So now he's got everybody in their minds against the Jewish people. He's got everybody in their minds against the Jewish people. He's created a lie, and the lie that he made would be like self-fulfilling. It was going to happen anyways, but he twisted it in a way that was like, it's a bad thing. They're getting, there's a lot of them. And once people start seeing that there's a lot of them, then they start to believe the lie that he made. The next thing that he does is Vayanunu. He afflicts them. Kumashan Amar. What's the pasuk that talks about that Ya'anunu affliction? Vyasimu alav sari misim. They placed on us like taskmasters. Amana noso bisivlosam, in order to afflict us in our burden. By even Ari Miskanos Paro, we built these cities for Paro, as Pitom Ves Ramses. Pitom and Ramses. Now, the Medrash tells us about these two cities, Pitom and Ramses, that they were built on ground that was not solid. So as they built up, the ground sank, and the building would sink too. So they'd keep building, but it would keep sinking. So the work that they were doing was not really getting done. And what it means by that, to be lamana noso besivlosam, to like oppress them with their burden, is they worked them very hard. They gave them impossible jobs to do, so that the work would never end. And so they're just keep doing the work and doing more and more and more. And they're just constantly in the mindset of just doing work. The last thing is they put upon us hard labor. As it says, they gave them even more harder labor, so that all they could think about all the time was the work, just doing the work. And even that story with Moshe and the Egyptian who was hitting the Jewish person, we're told that the Egyptian person, the Medrash says, that this guy, he went into this guy's house and woke him up early in the morning to get to work. And this is what happened. The Jewish people were woken up every single day, ripped out of their beds, and put to work. So they didn't have any time to think about anything else. Work, 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 as the song goes. Work, work, work every day and every night, right? Okay. Working all the time. So all they could think about was getting the work done, and they didn't have time to think about anything else. And when all you can do is when all that's going on is you're constantly being pushed to just do work, you don't have time to think about anything else. So when we asked before, that question I asked of, why don't the Jewish people just leave, just run away from Mitzrayim? Because they were pushed all the time to work, They didn't have time to think about how we can get out of here or how we can help ourselves or get out of this. So it wasn't that they were enslaved physically, like they were put in chains and every night they brought them back to the dungeon and locked them up in the cells, right? Because that's not what the Torah is describing. They had houses, everyone had houses, live in Jewish neighborhoods. We can almost think about it exactly like how we live, just without maybe no inside toilet or shower or electricity or YouTube or anything like that, Okay, a bit primitive, but they they had their own neighborhoods, their own houses, their own schools and things like that. But then over a bit of time, the government, Paro and the government started telling them, come, we want you to start working with us. We want you to do this job. We'll pay you. Okay. And then we pay you less and less. But we increase the work so that you have more to get done, but you're getting less paid, but you don't have time to complain about that because the work keeps piling up. And so you have money and you have these things. You live normal, except before you know it, they stop paying you. And there's nothing you can do because you can't stop thinking about the work and are constantly pushed into the work. There's never a moment to breathe or to plan and to get out. And so you're a prisoner in your own mind, and you're a prisoner in the labor and the work to the job that you're doing. So this was what was going on in Mitzrayim, at least for most of the time, until the very end when it got very, very bad, even beyond that. Because what would happen next is Paro would make the Jewish people look to the Egyptian people as if they were nothing. They weren't even like human beings at all. And so to do all sorts of terrible things to them is not a problem, because we don't look at them as being human, like regular people, because Paro manipulated, he lied and made the Egyptian people believe him that these Jewish people are our enemies and that we need to enslave them with work and enslave them in their minds so that we can eventually destroy them. Now, God is doing this, and is telling us this now, and is setting this up to show us how bad it was, and we can think how bad it was. So eventually, what we're going to talk about next week on Monday when we come back, because we won't be here tomorrow, eventually we're going to see how bad it went to the point that we were like meaningless creatures, and how Hashem not only took us out, but stood up for us to show us how much worth we actually had. Okay, great. So we're going to stop here today. Quick halacha. So, quick halacha. At the Seder, we need to lean. You got to lean when you drink your cups of wine, and at the second, when we eat the matzah of our freedom. So maybe I'll leave this question for you and see if anybody can answer the next time we come. Which way do we lean? The right, the left? Do we lean forward? Do we lean back? Which is the way we lean? Okay, so think about that. Look it up. Get the answer. Maybe ask who has to lean. Find out if you could find out who has to lean, and we'll see what answers people have next time we meet. So have a great Shabbos this week. Stay well and stay safe, and we'll speak to you soon.